So just glad that you're here, glad that we're beginning our series of international events again after a summer hiatus, summer early fall hiatus. We already have a couple of other very interesting events in the works that will be getting information to you soon. So welcome back to being in this network and community with each other. Today we're really lucky to have Nara Garber with us, who is the filmmaker for our film In Witness. She was game to work with me on a dime last fall to make this film. It was under the wildest woolly sort of ride that we went through to be able to actually pull this off. But it was really the work of two artists, Blaine de Saint Croix and Liddell Moe, that I saw at Mass MoCA in August. And their work had been in conversation with each other over most of that year, although the museum was closed a fair amount of the year in the middle. This is, by the way, a contemporary art museum in Western Mass. For those of you who don't know, I think it's probably one of the see contemporary art in the world. I mean, that's a grand statement, but it's an extraordinary place. And this work was exceptional. You could feel that there were powerful questions arising in the space between these two artists, and that I just sensed that those wanted to have language given them. They wanted to be spoken and explored more, and that we needed a circle of listeners to do that. So, and hey, why not do a film? Because I called up Nara and she was like, oh, okay, coming from her incredible presence at all of the events, the protests in New York City and Brooklyn over the summer, filming so much of that. And she was willing to pivot and really go into this deep contemplative space of looking with the group that came together. So she was game, and so was this wonderful group of Council on the Uncertain Human Future allies, a number of whom are here today. And so on December 15th in 2020, there we were finally through thick and thin, with some food to eat, with places to stay if they were needed. As everything was closing down, there we were with Nara and her wonderful husband, Tolan Bistreck, filming this film. And so we're officially launching it today, even though it's been out and around, and maybe some of you have already seen it. But it's really nice to celebrate that it exists, and we hope you'll share it more widely. And after we look at it together, Kyle's going to put it up and stream it because it's only 10 minutes. We'll then have a little bit of conversation with Nara and with the people who are able to join today who are participants, which is Susie Moser, John Bales, Pat Benjamin, and Melissa Hoffer. And then we will go into a council that is developed in order to explore some of what comes up in the film. So welcome, welcome, welcome. It's so good to see you. So glad to see you all. And so Kyle, let's go ahead and stream the film.
constantly the question, where are we? Where are we? Where are we? To be in motion, to build, to sway in the breeze, to drift, to migrate, to shift perspective, to run, to lift, to change, to melt, to take away, to erode, to flee, to be touched.
This experience of death feeding life, for me, is incredibly powerful and incredibly important, and it's not present in our life and we disregard it.
We, on the one hand, are meaningless, and on the other hand, we're determinative.
All of this human endeavor is happening at the surface, but look at this solid thing that underlies all of that. The earth and its own processes and its own time scale.
The interdependence of everything. We are clear-cutting all these life-giving, root intermingling relationships that are simply being destroyed for some objectified idea of resources.
This inexorable marching forward of the disintegration.
The perpetual motion of the extraction machine that we've created. It's happening at every moment.
How do we make people even want to pay attention?
We're so incredibly good at forgetting.
Nobody's listening, and it's incredibly hard to hear. How do you make sense out of that cacophony? What if it's just way more important now that we just shut up?
We're living within a ruin. This grand species, having achieved such incredible heights and accomplishments, we as a thing on Earth are in ruin.
It's a way of knowing a body from the inside out, of knowing our bones from the inside out. This falling into the earth, the body into the earth. The body is earth. and that birds and worms will eat what we think we are.
The idea of simultaneous emergence from the natural world and being taken back by the natural world.
This huge space of silence where that reality sinks in like a stone, to hold it, to not run from it, and to really let it sink in. Centered and holding and grounded, with her legs upon the earth. Reconnecting back with what it is that makes us human.
Can we actually witness for this time? Can we actually be present to what's taking place with as much love and care and tenderness?
Who are we? Who are we when we no longer have that life-sustaining, that culture-forming connection with the land? Who are we as people when we lose that? When? When are we going to get it? When are we going to be dead?
It's time to rethink. No more. Enough of all of that. That not only opens up an abyss, so it's really scary, but it also opens up this enormous horizon for what then comes next. There's a way in which we can be part of the earth.
So I'm very happy Nara is with us today in a time in her life that's actually extremely full. So thank you, Nara, for making this work. I'm so grateful to you. Kyle, were you going to pin just those of us who are speaking, or do I need to do something differently?
I have Nara and you pinned, and I can add folks as you want.
Oh, maybe I'm just doing something wrong. Okay. Thank you. Well, I'm seeing everybody, which is fine. But is everybody seeing Nara? That's what I care about. Pretty much, okay. Is everybody seeing a gallery, or are you seeing primarily me and Nara? Okay, me and Nara is what you're saying. Okay, good. Okay, Nara, so what do you remember about doing this? What do you remember about what it was like to shoot this, to be there? What's on your mind about it, or is vivid still from it?
I have to say what I'm coming out of right now, and I'll just give this as a one sentence background. I just came from a funeral of my husband's great grandfather yesterday, which was an in-person event, masked and safe, but cacophonous. And I think one of the things that I remember most about this shoot, and it really feels like a psychological time capsule for me, is that it was the absolute opposite of cacophony. It was there was such a stillness to being at Mass MoCA, and part of it was because we were able to film on 2 days when the museum was closed to the public. But even when Tolan and I had arrived the day beforehand on the Monday, when they were open to the public, there were, it seemed we encountered perhaps a dozen people in these vast galleries in this museum that's been built in what had been a factory space. And, there was something just so contemplative and kind of, it felt sort of almost reverential, particularly to walk through the gallery with Liddell Moe's sculptures. And it felt like such an incredible privilege after this COVID-enforced hiatus of visiting spaces of art to have access to these galleries and be with the people who had chosen to be there. And it felt like a gift at the end of a horrible, horrible year, and a year of, global illness and civic unrest. And it really, those 2 days of filming with you, Sarah, and the other members of the council who were able to attend were a thing completely apart from everything else that I think of when I think of 2020. And so it was really a remarkable gift to be there with you in this quiet space with time to kind of take in what these artists had done and think about it without any other distractions.
Well, you and Tolan were so masterful. The choreography of your filming was beautiful. The two of you doing it together with this cart and the camera, and then what's it called, the thing that you went up on to be able to film us at the end?
Oh, they used a lift, something that you'll see on some construction sites. And I think they have them at the gallery to probably for lighting and for installation of their larger exhibitions. Right. But the museum was so quiet at that point in time, they could make things like that available to us that it might have been harder to arrange in a different time. When Sarah first proposed this shoot, I remember she was so moved by Liddell Moe's work in particular that she sent me a couple of videos by text. And I recall being astonished that Mass MoCA was actually open to the public in August when you had gone. And you said you were already thinking that there was filmic potential in this material. And I had just thought, with the obstacles presented by COVID and with everything happening in the world, the likelihood of your getting permission for us to do this was very, very slim. And so I didn't even allow my hopes to get up. And then, up until I'd say a few days beforehand, the COVID situation was so precarious that we didn't really know what would happen. And then we managed to pull it off just before a snowstorm passed through. So it really felt like there was this little time carved out for us to attempt to do this thing that felt anomalous in 2020, but really, I was so grateful for that time.
It was extraordinary. It was amazing. When you were editing and we were sort of working on some of the text possibilities from our wonderful interviews with people, at some point you just said it kind of fell together. What do you what do you think about that now? What's your reflection on that now? What do you think gets the credit for it falling together?
A weird combination of, yeah, I wasn't sure if the edit would take a long time. And, we had made a conscious decision not to film the interviews, just to do audio recording so that we could maintain sort of sensible COVID protocols throughout the entire shoot. And I thought this is, all a little bit unusual how we went about it. And then just when I actually was able to sit down with the material, and we used the music that accompanies a film that was within the Blaine de Saint Croix exhibit. And once the music started pairing with the imagery, there was almost, it happened very quickly. And it sort of seemed like there weren't actually many alternative options I could consider. It lent itself to a certain feeling. And other editors might have felt completely differently or have done something quite different with the work. But what everybody who participated brought to their reflections, combined with the visuals, it's hard to explain. It was a much faster process than, it's sort of like the puzzle pieces arranged themselves. And then I said to Sarah, I don't know if this is kind of what asked to be made. Maybe you have some input.
There's some way that the music too.
The music really
was
informed
such a gift, wasn't it? Just really beautiful. So there's a flow to that as well.
And I think one of the things that we had tried to do is, since so many people could not go to Mass MoCA by themselves, and so, since both you and I had been so moved by the full sensory experience of being in those gallery spaces with that work, is that I think we both felt sort of that we had to honor what it felt like to be there. And the soundscape of each exhibit was so different in that the film was shown in one room of the Blaine de Saint Croix exhibit, but the music kind of permeated all the gallery spaces as you walked through. Whereas in the Liddell Mo, much larger single open gallery space, you just had that sort of foghorn that would echo through the space. And so I think working within the mandates of trying to give somebody the experience of being there as well, that informed the edit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's bring on our fellow film participants, Melissa Hoffer and John Bales and Pat Benjamin and Susie Moser. Kyle, can you pin everybody and bring everybody on? Everybody made their way through all kinds of thick and thin to do this. We'd all thought we would be having these big buffet dinners and etc. I don't know, it seemed like it was going to open up enough for that. And boy, it sure didn't. So we ate at tables 10 feet apart, waving at each other. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. We're going to kind of go around the circle, of course. And if each of you could just share something that stays with you or that you're reflecting on still, from that time together, that would be great before we go into our council circles. So I'll just call on each of you if that's okay. Susie, could you start? Something that has stayed with you about the work or its questions or the experience?
Hi, everyone. Great to see you all. Well, it's not so much what stayed with me that I want to speak to right now. It's more what I just noticed in a way that maybe I didn't as much back then. And it came so beautifully through, Nara, in your filming and in how that obviously corresponds with the word spoken. And it has actually to do, I don't know, with the spatial dimensions. You show things from so many different perspectives, from above, from, looking below the surface, all the different ways you can see through like 3 rooms. I don't know, there was something about that giving perspective to these questions that were raised through the exhibits, and to, the question that we what John said at the end there, of there is a way in which we can be part of the earth. They just somehow correspond with me right now. You know, can we see ourselves more interlinked with everything by taking these different perspectives? So anyway, that just struck me at just this moment. So I'll just share that.
Thank you. Pat, what about you?
Well, I was thinking this morning, remembering back to what it was like to be there. As Nara said, you know, this strange 2020, it was the first time I went anywhere. And then there we were together, but alone. So, but what I remembered when I was thinking about it this morning was the train, the just in constant, continuous extraction machine in the background of everything. And then that's exactly what comes out in the film, I think. You know, it always goes back to that train just ripping the earth. And then the images or the sculptures, the shapes in the big gallery of the Liddell Mo, it just felt, being in that space, it felt like you were almost in a desert and seeing the desiccated remains of an earlier civilization. And how are those two pieces connected? I guess that's what sticks with me.
John.
The spatial relations and the flow, the visual, almost 3D experience of moving within and around objects, with the flow of the music, opening our senses. Very, for me, you know, I'm a Zen guy, so I do a lot of meditation. And the nature of the relationship with our thoughts and the sense of objects and our perspectives, as well as we settle and our mind releases our hold on our thoughts, so that new spaces open, so that languaging for new spaces can occur. I guess we could call it a form of listening, but it's not only our ears. It's our hair follicles, you know? It's the pores. Hearing, feeling, sensing. Our senses free of our pre-organized data format, you know? And the devastation is real. I mean, it's not like birds and bugs, peoples, cultures are disappearing, that languages are disappearing, that ways of describing the world that most of us in the modern world have never even understood existed are disappearing, and we'll never know unless we reconstruct it through our own experience. But this basis of the space connecting everything, I think, is most powerful for me. I felt as though as I remember back, but as though I was in a sort of viscous atmosphere, sort of floating with things, and with one another as we passed one another, considering the different objects, you know. And then, of course, when Nara and Toland would be moving amongst us, you know, but feeling like I walked into that skull, you know. But we walk into our bodies, or we walk into our minds. Most people think meditation is, for example, some out-of-body experience, but literally it's like being inside your bones. And I think the peoples that are disappearing, the native peoples and their languages that are disappearing, are quite aware that their bones are the trees. and the bugs and the creatures, and that shared form, that creation is there. And I felt that so deeply in the process of the film, and of course I continue to explore it.
Thank you, John, so much. Alyssa?
Thanks, Sarah. Good morning. There's like a funereal feel to the Dalmo exhibit and the statuary and the sense of memorial. And, you know, what struck me watching, I've watched this several times now, is it is correct to say, as someone does during the film, that our project is over. This project is indeed over, whether we recognize it or not. You know, it's over. So, you know, it's like any other loss, a death or a relationship. There's a period of not really fully understanding that and kind of coming to terms with it and reckoning with it. And that's really how I saw the two relating, because we can't go back. What we have actually is lost. We don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of uncertainty around it. There's possibility for, you know, human civilization to survive in some way, but we have many choices to make about that now, and we need to make them deliberately and also quickly. And I think there's a lot of uncertainty about whether we'll be able to do that. So in that regard, one of the things that struck me so much about Lane's exhibit, and you can see it in the back when Susie is looking at some things on the wall, but there was a filmed animation that was playing, and he had sustained some kind of pretty significant spinal injury that he writes about, or is, you know, on some of the interpretive plaques as you go through the different pieces. So there was some sense of his own rehabilitation as he goes through that project of having this spinal surgery. And so the animation is of him taking an initial walk through a field, and he has, you know, he's walking slowly. I think there's a cane in it, and, you know, he's walking, his figure gets smaller and smaller, and there's all this wind in the audio that accompanies it, and you can kind of hear like maybe animal voices, or, you know, sort of like this maelstrom of wildness, and the figure changes into a crow. And that felt so powerful to me, because that symbol, I think, and sort of the, you know, it's a very shamanic image. That's what we have to do now. That's what we need to do. We need to figure out how we're going to transition through this moment if we're going to survive it.
Thank you. Nara, did you want to add anything?
It's lovely to be with you in this strange virtual realm again. And I think I'm just taking the time to think about what everybody has said, but I might not have anything to add for another half hour.
Yeah.
This is helping me get back to that space.
Yeah, me too. I'm so grateful to hear from all of you at a little bit of a remove and synthesizing for us, really where we are today, and what we offer each other actually in moving from here. So we're actually going to go now into offering that presence and insight and exploration with each other. We have, I think we have 37 people, and Kyle's going to do breakout groups into councils. This is the first time we've done this kind of event where we're doing random distributions of people into councils. We'll just enjoy getting to know people for who knows what reason we've ended up in the group together. So I think, Kyle, so that you know, I know Diana is here, Melissa can do a council, John and Kevin can both do one, Walter can do one. So I think those are the 5 that we would do. Is there somebody I missed? No, I think that's it. So we'll do those 5 groups, and we won't be coming back together at the end, although in some ways I would love that, but we'll just have, this time we'll just dissipate from our circles. We'll take a stretch right now, just take a 3-minute stretch while the breakouts happen, and go into your groups. And this is called the Council in the Time of Witness, that will allow us to each explore some of the questions that have just been raised and some of in our own perceptions as they're arising. So thank you all so much for being here. And I'm going to be in touch very soon about our next event. Much love to everyone, and stay on for a breakout assignment.